All right, so welcome all the dungeon masters to our it's a meeting that we've been kind of holding off on for a really long time. I feel like this is pretty important to talk about and catch everyone up on. So, yeah, we're gonna just get right into the meat of things, just so we don't keep everyone up later than we have to. And I want to jump straight into the talking about potential new tier ranges and introducing adventure ranks into the as a both a, a meta mechanic so that we can keep track of the level ranges between all the characters, as well as an in-game system that we can choose to reward players for just being upstanding adventurers overall.
Well, my question on that is what are you meaning by adventure range?
It's just basically an in-game way of keeping track of the tier system. It would be a good way for new characters to build up sort of a fame system as well. So it's not like new adventurers can just be immediately famous and just have just rest their reputation on the work of adventurers that they may have just happened to join for that session and get more honor, so to speak, from their ranks rather than, well, just reputation that they may gain.
Well, there is optional rules for that in the DMG, if I remember, the honor, if that's akin to what you're talking about with the adventure ranks.
Yeah. But that's what I wanted to talk about for the most part is we've had this tier system for quite some time. I think it's 1 to 5 is tier 1, 6 to 12 is tier 2, and 13 to 20 is tier 3. And we've been kind of sitting around on that for a while. I think it's been like 3 to 4 months. And I think the popular opinion is that the ability to move from one tier to another makes the games really difficult to balance. And having level 12s joining tier 1 games where the highest level is 5 as
they weren't supposed to be able to. They weren't supposed to be able to go backwards. You were able to step up a tier at the DM's discretion, but you weren't just because of the balance thing back when we talked about it. Now we could pull the video that we recorded of that session talking about it, but there wasn't going backwards. It was always going up, and there again being DM's discretion if they think that character was a good fit and wouldn't bog the rest of the party down.
Well, I don't mind people going back, but I think the tier range is still incredibly hard to deal with. Even going up to a tier 2 game as maybe even a level 3 or 5, still a big jump to make. So the new tier ranges, I'm hoping that we are going to make them based on proficiencies the proficiency score. I think that's a good. I think we should have maybe started with that the first time. In hindsight, obviously, but I think it's a good idea to go from 1 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 to 9 to 12, 13
to 16, and 17 to 20.
Well, what you're describing is the optional tier system in the DMGE as far as that. And when we did the tier system, it was basically a pilot, and then at the end of the pilot time frame, most people liked it. So that's why we have what we have is on that piece. That's all.
Yeah, but the active membership has grown since then, and the level disparity is kind of all over the place, and I think we need more than 3 tiers.
Honestly, I disagree.
Yeah, because
the disparity, that issue, falls on the DM. The DM has to say, this character will fit this adventure or work okay or not, by level or proficiency, by their judgment. There again,
also we have more people running games, so we have more people that can do different levels. So if a game is too low for a player, then there's another person that can, if that person is running a lot of games, but not necessarily at a level that for someone else, there's going to be other people that can run a game at the level for another person, so they can play, because we have few more people running games than we did when we first talked about the tier system as well.
Well, yeah, but adding another tier into it, and here again, I'm not for or against, to be honest, because I don't think the tier system itself is causing the issue. It's there again.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying that there isn't something that the DM has to do with that.
There's a lot that the DM needs to do with that.
Yeah. But I think more tiers will help.
I don't see how that will help. You're still going to have the same group. All you're going to do is have something that says, okay, now instead of 1st through 5th for a tier 1, it's 1st through 4th, and respectively on upwards. I think the true core issue isn't the tiers, but the DMs matching the players' abilities to the adventure.
Charlie, I think part of the problem is that the DMs are really trying to be nice guys. The system as it currently stands, at least as far as I know it, is if you're tier 1, you can go into a tier 2 game with DM approval. If you're tier 2, you can go in either a tier 1 game or a tier 3 game. Again, DM approval. And tier 3 can only go down to a tier 2. I believe what Matt and Alex are trying to say is keep the same system where you can go within one tier range of where you're at. But if we cut it down to by proficiency bonus, that keeps the maximum person that can be in a tier 1 game is a level 8 character versus the system that we currently have where it could be up to a level 12 character. DMs don't necessarily, they want to run game. They don't want to tell people, no, you can't run. You can't play my game.
Well, then they need to be working themselves to that point, because bottom line, a tier 12, not a tier 12, but a level 12 character in a tier 1 game would be unbalanced, and that is up to the DM to say, no, that's just too high. Now, a level 6 that stepped back into a tier 1 game could fit without unbalancing it. As far as that, if they were light party members and they still had basically the same average party level. But there again, I was never myself fond of the tier systems, period. That was not an aspect that I promoted. It was, however, an aspect that a group out of the membership desired something in that form. So we tried it.
Yeah.
And
and I'm going to take some responsibility. I pushed the tier system because I thought it would help with things, and then when I saw things were kind of going back to the way they were, and the tier system wasn't really becoming a relevant thing, I didn't really push the issue. So I'm definitely taking some blame for current situation.
This isn't about blame, but what's going to work, and this is and with that flowing, that's why I've always been a proponent of, okay, this adventure is for X level to X level at X many people.
Yeah.
That stops the frustration that's being spoke of here.
Yeah.
So, what's everyone else's opinion on this? We have 3 people just sitting here.
Feel free to chime in. Nobody's going to chew your arm off. This is kind of the place, the platform to do it. And I don't mean chew the arm off, but I mean voice your opinion.
I think adding, making the tier system basically a proficiency bonus makes it easier for will make it easier for the DMs to not have to say no. They can look at, it's a tier 2 game or proficiency 3 game, and then folks that are 4 know that they can get in, but it's going to be easy. Folks that are proficiency 2 know that they can get in, but it's going to be hard. And folks that are proficiency 5 know, that's too much for that, and so they pass it off.
See, but here, this isn't so much about the statement on the tier game, but the statement that you made that the DM don't want to say no. Well, as a DM, there are junctures where you have to say no and be willing to say no. You can classify it. This is why I'm saying no, but
I'm just speaking for myself that games that I run, because I run sporadic and short, quick hunt games, that I get 2-3 people and they could be a wide range of levels, so, or they could be similar in level. It depends on who's wanting to play the game at the time that I say, hey, I'll run if you guys want to play. So I kind of just let everyone in because it's like 2 or 3 people, and one might be level 9, one might be level 4. You know. So.
Yeah, but
the other thing is, people in general don't like saying no. And as a DM, one of the things that that you hear from, especially when you listen online, is that a good DM says yes, rewards people for out of the box. I'm not saying that you have to always say yes, but we are encouraged, especially in videos online, we're encouraged to say yes. And people that want to adventure. They want to, this is recreation. They want to get out there and have a good time. And I think that that's why there is a little bit of pressure on DMs to just say, yeah, go ahead and get in there.
Yeah.
That
and with the I thought the tier system was a good idea, but I never thought the level breakdown we had was good, especially since tier 2, it's a wide range, and I think going with the proficiency as the tier levels is a way to, like. And one thing is, I know I am to blame for this, is especially since I say yes and then I change the tier level of the game and I give out way too much XP. I think one thing we need to do is, this is this tier level. I'm not going to change it. You're going to get the XP, and I am 100%. I give out way too much, and because it was set up, you are only guaranteed 1, and I am way too liberal with giving the, if I'm running tier 2, I'm way too liberal with giving the 2 XP, or if it's tier 3, giving the 3 XP out. And I think I think characters are moving way too quickly through the leveling. Like, well, I like that characters are, it's definitely faster than the way it was before, because before it was almost agonizingly slow. But now I think it's moving way too quickly. Well, when they get to the higher levels.
With the aspect of not wanting to say no when it's appropriate, you cause confusion and you cause anarchy, in a sense. And there are times, and there's a large grouping of DMs that will tell you there are times you have to say no. Some you can allow them options. No, but just like, yeah, but.
Well,
however,
yeah,
it's still, you're, as the DM, in control of the game 100%, as far as the interpretation of the rules and how you set up your adventure.
Yeah, and I think it might be a fundamental issue with me, and that's why, especially now, I've kind of shied away from running, because I have to be reflective on what's going on and maybe try and learn some interpersonal skills, because I think I might be doing more harm to the group than good.
Well,
Running games. I don't see.
It's the way I think it's the way I run games. Best of
The fact that you run games is fantastic.
the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Any road is paved with good intentions, but if you don't run games, then people are not going to play because they're not going to be around.
Yeah.
Character leveling up is just going to have this fluctuation that it has right now because you get an influx of people that come in. They start out at level 1. They end up at level 4 or 5 within a week because they get crazy and they want to play a lot of games.
Yeah.
And then you get characters like, the ones that are in the tier 3 range right now. They don't get many games because there isn't as many freaking characters or people around that can actually play them.
Yeah.
And then you have GMs that you can't play tier 3 games all the time because there just isn't a pool for tier 3 characters. You know what I mean? I mean, I can count on my 2 hands right now, maybe 6 or 7 tier 3 characters that are in the guild right now that have actually active players. Tier 2, there's a good amount. Tier 1, there's always going to be tier 1s because people can make a tier 1 first level character within 10 minutes if they want to do it best. You're holding. I understand everybody's stuff, but at the same time, you gotta. People are gonna ask for games. If they show up and there's no games, then they'll go somewhere else. Yeah. And I know it's like, well, if they go somewhere else, well. Well, the whole purpose of the group was running games, having fun. We're not here to run games, then we're just here to freaking throw memes in there and talk to each other. These people, they come here because we invite them. We tell them, hey, oh yeah, there's games all the time. And they get in here and there's like 1 or 2 games a week because, they're tier 3 games, or they're tier 2 games, and their characters are tier 1s, and they don't want to kill them off or whatnot. But, in the end, we're going to have to run games. I see the pros and cons in changing the tier system because that would help with spacing the games out more, But, and I understand what Charles is saying about, you got to say no. But if you only have a few people that actually play and they don't want to make another character, well, then you have to play what you got. Matt, you play games all the time, man. I applaud you because you get out there and you do it. Not everybody can get out there every night and throw a game out. You got stuff in real life. You have other shit that comes up. But in reality...
Not that much, so I kind of have the... I don't have a life, so I have the free time to throw a game out every night.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's what you like to do. You like to run games. Every one of the GMs in here likes to run a game.
I think I like to make people happy.
It's the same thing. You run a game, you make people happy. You talk to them, you make them happy. We hear you laugh, we all laugh because we like to hear you laugh. It's the same shit. Run a game. If you run a game, run a game. If you gotta run a game and the only character that's there is a freaking tier 3, then play a solo tier 3. But then you have the off chance, which happens a lot, where you run a game, people are running lanes like, hey, can I jump in? Well, the only character I have is a level 8 or I have a level 5. Well, you can scale down the CR for the game, or you could just tell them no. Well, that sucks. When you get down to it, it sucks.
Well,
I understand your point, Charles. Where sometimes you got to say no. Then, maybe that's the only time a month that person has to play a game. You know what I mean?
Well, and I understand that perspective. However, is it in the scenario that you gave? Is it really fair to all to go ahead and continue to say yes we'll do this. Yes, a DM should be flexible. However, there again, if he spent the time or she to develop a game at a set concept and level, then to have to immediately or close to it to adjust it way down, which would take the time and things. It's not fair to the players that he did have and to himself. Now, if the DM wants to accept that, then there again, the DM's choice. If the guy or gal that wants to play and only has that 1 month time frame, usually there's plenty of notice from the DMs here listing game events, unless it's a pop-up or pickup, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, mine are usually pickup games, so like
and
one in the last few months was posted a week ahead of time.
Well, yeah, but my point being, the one that you plan for, you should be able, with confidence, choose to say, no, it's not a good fit. I'm not changing that. Your pickup games, you have not invested the same amount of time and energy into it. That's easy enough to justify and say, yeah, okay, we'll move around. A lot of it is situational on when to say no, when to say maybe, and when to say yes. There again, that's why I'm not a fan of any tier system.
Yeah.
Period. Myself, I would, and I have, from the past till now, taken the majority rule for the most part and work within it. I don't have to like everything. The problem with not a lot of tier 3 games, yes, there's not a lot of tier 3 characters. The problem with, okay, we got a tier 2 game going on here, but all we got is some new members that have tier 1, then do I allow them to play in the tier 2? No, that personally, I'd say no. I would look to see if someone else would have a tier 1 game open or willing to run a tier 1 game. It seems that the most popular games that the majority of the DMs have been running are tier 2. And so that's what's, for the most part, being offered out. There's not as many DMs offering to run tier 1s. Just like not many offering to run tier 3. That's why I kind of point the fingers back at us for those types of aspects.
That's I'm finding more as a tier 3. It's fairly easy to find a game But then again, I do play in a lot of pop-ups.
And there's nothing wrong with pop-ups. And I'm not saying that at all.
All right. So unless anyone has any other thoughts they want to bring into the conversation.
Yeah.
All right, well, just post
Well,
it. If you do, go ahead, Matt.
no, I was just gonna say,
Let me get
if we do switch from a 3-tier to a 5-tier, it would would we just go back to every game it's always 1 XP, or 1 to 8 is 1 XP, 9 to 16 is 2, and 17 to 20 is 3? Right.
I think that would require some thought, but I think there's part of the issue is for me, I have a very open schedule, so I can plan out games ahead of time. But most of my games are story based on particular characters. Like I've got 2 lined up right now that want stories for their characters playing, and I'm fine with that. And I don't mind running pickup games, but I never know from time to time when people are available, because there's just such a wide variety of different time zones to play with.
And Maggie, I have to say that I do appreciate that you play, or you play at a variety of times, because at least me personally, my schedule fluctuates, fairly wildly, whether or not the wife is home to watch the ankle biters, or if they're in nap, or doing other things, and I appreciate you playing during the earlier afternoon, and then both Matt and Chapo both tend to run later in the evening games, which work out better for me, and I appreciate that.
No problem.
So, I think we'll return to this topic of the new tier ranges when we have more time to think on it. Mostly for the aspects of rewards and such for the new tiers. Something that we might be able to carry on in a more formal area.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the upcoming events that we're planning, that we might be planning, as well as potential campaigns for local, even just individuals. But I'm mostly talking about Illumina as a whole, and perhaps other cities that might be coming around. So we have been kind of discussing a lot of stuff in the backgrounds, and I think this would be a good place to kind of bring it to the forefront and have a more a bigger discussion about it than what we've been having, which is mostly revolves around finishing up the Chaos Shards and completing the ritual. And I think that's still something that everyone else wants to do, to at least get the chaos out of the way.
Well, it's being worked. I did give you guys the temporary solution, which it doesn't affect quite as much as Harry would right now. I believe on the list of the Shard games, I have them already assigned for the most part. The ones that were left open, I pretty much picked up myself, but that's just so they get picked up. And I've scheduled those games that I be running at least for the first couple bi-weekly or month, depending on my schedule, so we could get those out of the way. As far as that, but if there's one of those that somebody else wants to pick up and run, then just let me know, and we can deal with that. I know I have a Shard game that's Sunday. As far as that, yeah.
So there was also something that we were discussing as a council, and I want to make sure that we all still know what's going on about it, which is the potential war that might be breaking out between the three main kingdoms.
Well, that yeah, we're still gonna run with that precept. But I was waiting to hear which DMs we were gonna have that were gonna run those, so that there could be proper coordination. But trying to get more or most of the shards out of the way. Okay, let me bring that.
Most of them are done. It's just I think
there's 3 or 4 left, and that's counting the last one. I think
there's 3, and then there's the ritual itself.
Yeah, that'd be 4. And Sunday, the Pearl I'll be running that, and then there's the others. I don't remember right off the top of my head. I'd have to pull the list up. But yeah, if want to start getting a war council together, if you want to call it that, and discuss the guidelines, the story arcs, so they don't have to blend, but at least have some coherency between them.
Well, if Illumina goes to war, then their war council would be the guild masters of the major mercenary and venture guild. So Pincus would be a part of that. So Adrian would be a part of that as the archmage of the Wizards Guild, and then the commander of the watch would be a part of that, and the council would be a part of that.
The city council in my opinion, to be the prime, and they would call in the other aspects.
Yeah.
But that's my view.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
that.
Like, the council would be the main, but they would call on them because
But
they got because the mercenaries, the Avengers, and the Wizard Guild people got they aren't a static army. They got maneuverability.
but my point, which may have got confused when I said war councils.
Oh yeah, I know what you meant the people running games, but I was going with lore rather than real world. Yeah. Yeah, I thought my thought of that was it was going to be headed up by Alex, and then certain people would be running point in time events during it.
I don't mind kicking things off.
Yeah.
Well, and there's no problem there. It's there again, getting which DMs can commit to that arc, because it's not going to be a one game arc. Some of those will take time. Possibly having new characters, first level, work their way up through the ranks if they survive. Depending on the different story arcs that are involved. That's why I was saying all the DMs that will run those games should communicate and have a good working idea of the lay of the land, as far as say, coming up with why this war is going on. Is it one event that has all the kingdoms, or are there multiple events that are creating the war in each region for different reasons, and then tied together by those regions' big boss to the ultimate boss, I guess, if you want to call it? Just needs some organization.
Go ahead, Throak. I'll see what I have to do after.
Yeah.
I'm still working on an idea. I'll get to you in a minute. Sorry.
Okay.
So,
let's see if Ty said anything. Okay. So, for the Chaos Shard games, is there anyone that wants to take up one of the shards and run one of those?
I'm looking at the incompleted. It's the Earth and Brotherhood is one that isn't. King's Crystal, Blood Red Ruby, Pearl, and the Ritual.
I can run a game for the shards as early as next week. Need an idea of what tier you want it to be, and a rough idea where it's at.
I think Charles should keep the Earth and Brotherhood because he's the one that knows the most about that.
Let's see here. Let me see here. Shard. I'm looking for my list.
Yeah, I got Shards of Chaos info 9.
Yeah. Okay. That's the that is the last one I sent out.
Yeah. And since you set it out, we have the obsidian shard, so that one's not marked.
That one's
Okay.
And while we're getting that information, is there anyone that wants to take up this position as sort of a DM for this war council that will basically make sure that this war that we organize and make sure that we have everything that we want to know about each city, and also to run campaigns and events inside of it. Besides myself, obviously.
I would say yeah, but my current situation, I really don't have the time. I can advise as far as like military tactics and stuff like that, but as far as like running games, it's kind of up in the air right now. It's about to find my job. So,
what about having 2 DMs take over each faction, like a faction, and then if like one of the DMs can't run, then if the other one can, then it's not an issue. But they work together in tandem to try to make it move forward and progress in the storyline.
Well, that's what I mean. I need, like, I could do it myself, but I would like one other person to kind of help me plan and to help move the campaign along.
and help you plan all day long.
Yeah, I will too.
As far as the time frame for running games, it's going to be kind of catch and go.
Okay. So I'll on the Discord, I'll make a war council and I'll invite the two of you to that.
Okay.
And you guys,
I wouldn't mind helping with the planning part, but my internet situation being what it is, running the games is pretty a no-go for me.
Well, that's and nobody is saying that everybody has to run. That's getting the ones that we can that are willing and able, because you know there is real life besides D&D,
Yeah.
and that is a priority. The real life D&D second. You know, your family is first, and like that. You get my train of thought, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely I will run or play or plan as much as I can. But this, I think, a war on the magnitude that we're talking about takes more than one or two people. As far as that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll be able to run some games. That's not an issue. It's timing. So if I can't, I'll talk to the council and let them know when I can. I can schedule from there.
And this war, I mean, it doesn't have to be done in a week, a month. Here again, there's, especially in a Renaissance style environment, wars rarely ended that quickly.
I think, well, last time it was discussed, the plan was for it to last 7 years in game. and each game that would run would be a major aspect along that time period.
Yeah, which it should. War impacts economy, rulers, the peasantry, the ecology, and such. So there's going to be impact, changes, and such.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. And
So-
what I will do.
Do we have? Are we all on the chaos chart stuff?
Yeah, I'm doing the update on it right at the moment. It'd be 10, and let's see here. Save as 10. Yeah, and I will. What's going on here with that? Copy.
Matt, if you want to run one of the Shard games, the Blood Red Ruby is a tier 1 game.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be happy to.
And let's see here. I'll put. Get back.
Especially with it being a tier 1, because that makes it even easier to find players.
Yeah, and it's the ruby will be found on the Isle of Doors. That's at the south of the continent on the map.
All right. Well, we'll see if we can't schedule a time for me and you to get together and like either chat with it on Discord or just talk it over.
Isle of Doors is as an unexplored. It was one Will was going to do. He had ideas for it, but you know what happened to that. So it was unclaimed, and then Charles picked it up. So the UAG has not been there yet. So it's kind of like,
oh boy, something I get to toy with that there ain't no history for.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's going to make me really happy.
And
But it's a small island nation to the very deep south of the world.
You'll see it on the world map.
Yeah.
Let's see here. And who was doing that one? Was that
Matthew Gillum?
Matthew Gill? Okay, let me adjust this a little bit.
Yeah, so that's number 9.
And I believe I put that map by the numbers of the Shard games that line up to the list up in the Unnamed Adventures Guild Masters group that I approved you or added you to, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Is that 10? Okay. Let's see here. Blood Ruby. Let me go here.
So after we're kind of finished up organizing and with the chaos shards, we'll jump back to the tier list conversation now that people have kind of time to think about it. And I want to finish that conversation before we jump into the magic items, which is a pretty big deal in itself.
What was your intent?
For the magic items?
Yes.
Well, I already we voted on it a while back, which is how we got into the situation with war in the first place. It doesn't really, and although I like the war, it doesn't really answer the problem of we have far too many magic items.
Well, the war can, because even magic items can be destroyed, can be broken. They just, by the mechanic in the DMG, they just fall under the category as a resilient item. And so they have the possibility of being broken by that. Because the object has hit points and it has an armor class. And let me put my eyes on, and I'll tell you the page.
Yeah, I know that those sort of things happen.
Yeah.
I just think in a war, yeah, things do break, but it's very hard to break a weapon unless it's very intentional.
Well, you're going to have people that are going to intentionally try to break a warrior's axe, per se.
Yeah. Sometimes it's easier to break the weapon than it is to break the person wielding the weapon.
And even on object hit points, even a medium, which they're calling about a barrel size, and on the resilient, the hit points for it is 4d8. So if you took the maximum of 32 hit points, depending, and then go over to the object armor class, depending on what it's made of. Say, I know we have some adamantine items out there that has armor class of 23. So you have to meet the armor class to hit it. I'd say the person would have to be like in 3.5, a called shot in a way. And you go after that item's armor class on that. And then if you hit, then you do X amount of damage points. And if you meet the object's points to destroy it, then you destroyed it. To me, that's pretty straightforward. By the 5e mechanic.
Fair enough. So that's how we're going to deal with them. So most items are just going to break.
Well, break, damage. Some can be stolen.
Yeah.
Lost. Hey, you're on a shipwreck. Possibly the item fell to the bottom of the lake, ocean, sea, wherever. Depending on the scenarios you want to develop.
All right, well, that was actually a very easy conclusion. If everyone's on board with the war and rolling for the items for a pretty large chance for something bad to happen to them.
I would suggest explaining that aspect to the players so they understand fully to prevent some whining.
So the idea with the war is that we have a lot of characters who have a lot of magic items, a lot of characters that don't have that many, and we have a lot of characters that have so many that they actually just can't have it on their persons anymore and have been sticking them in their armor or selling them.
Yeah, and the armory in that case, hey, thieves guilds and such may want to steal them. They get overrun by the enemy, and they break into it and take it. I mean, there's a lot of ways to go on them.
If they can get through Quartermaster Bob.
Well, I mean,
well,
20v1 situation is still bad.
there's nobody that can't be gotten through.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that the war, either by being stolen or by your having it broken in a combat or some other...
Well, I'm pretty sure the armory is going to be empty by the time war's end, just because of whether through theft or needing replacement. I'm pretty sure the armory will be empty.
Yeah. So the idea is to there's also a huge item imbalance that is also making it very hard to scale combat encounters as well as exploration encounters, since many people have many items to just completely subvert difficult challenges. So the idea for the war is to balance things out again so that it gives everyone's role a bit more meaningful and kind of return party balance to all the players. And I think that's pretty much our main reasoning. It's really hard for DMs to balance combat and adventures around it.
Well, that was on the discussion of it, and the aspect of that was to give the player a better opportunity to save what he has, or if he does lose it, he had a great chance to keep it. Instead of the kind of solution I had of the after the ritual and such, but I think the war and using the rules out of the DMG on objects and such gave better or more agency to the player. Where mine, it was a suggestion on a saving throw on the reset, and a lot of people felt that was unfair, and I could see their aspect on that. But this way it gives, and then with the war or wars, it gives an in-game example reason for why that object got stolen, lost, broke, whatever.
So, does anyone have any suggestions or anything they want to add to the scenario of the war breaking magic items or losing them?
Why don't we have like a large spell effect happen from the onslaught of the attack? Like a lot of times in war, they'll bombard an area before they go in. So, no, I'm not talking about fireballs. I'm talking about like bombard certain areas of the city with like, I don't know, spells that are made to destroy or maybe even like negate effects of certain magic items. That could be
anti-magic fields.
Yeah, kind of like anti-magic fields, or maybe even like having like even having like a herd of fucking rust monsters that they just drop in and just start eating people's weapons. I mean, you figure it's gonna get a couple weapons before they're taken down. But
you got
something that you can throw in there as like a huge like starter for the war. I mean, realistically, if you want to take down a nation, you start taking it down by its most important piece, which is going to be the weapon. Besides magic, and you want to do that, then start breeding freaking rust monsters.
Well,
let them lose in the city because what they're going to do is they're just going to eat metal everywhere. So,
there's more than rust monsters that you could use, and yeah, you're right. They'll want to soften their targets first by whatever means they can. I mean, you got your oozes, and not all weapons are metal.
no.
And that's why oozes could be useful in that sense, because certain oozes eat certain materials as far as that. So, and there's probably even more monsters out there that would be useful in that context, especially with like Volos and some of the newer material that they put.
Yep.
Anyone else? All right. So for pretty much the official business of tonight, we're going to jump back to the since everything else has pretty much been discussed and sorted. We'll go back and we'll conclude the tier range conversation and vote on whether we're going to have try to separate into even more tiers to kind of lower that power threshold between tiers to keep the system one we have, or go back to what we were used to and just put up level ranges and try to be a little more flexible.
Before we do that, I had one thing I wanted to bring up, and this is because of a situation, is conduct. As DMs, we should exemplify the best And I know we're all human, and we get frustrated and all this other, but we should, and I believe it's our duty to lead by example, as far as that. So if you guys could keep that in mind, then I think things will not escalate sometimes. Sometimes it's just best to bite one's tongue. No one can stop you from thinking in your mind that someone's a shit idiot, whatever. But to try to keep a level of fun and control instead of things getting unintentionally out of hand because of which ends up being people's pride, because most time any of us get a bow in our neck if someone starts hitting trash talk that's almost feels personal. We all trash talk, and that's kind of a little bit of what the game, the social aspect is too. But there is a breakaway and a cutaway point, and when we as DMs do it, then our players think they can or assume they can, and like that. And here again, along with conduct, if you're a DM and you're playing in somebody else's game, remember, treat them like you want to be treated. As far as that, don't work to unintentionally undermine or intentionally undermine. Let the DM run their game, and afterwards, on a sidebar or someplace a little more private, discuss how, why, and what for. That's all I have on that as aspect. I've seen it kind of creep up in some of the games here and there.
Okay. So the new tier system, old tier system, or going back to the way we had it before where we make level ranges. So what's the votes for the new tier system going by proficiency and seeing where that takes us?
I don't see why we couldn't give it a try. It'll be worse.
Sounds good
I'm
to me.
up for a trial run.
Isn't it always a trial run?
Well, life is a trial run. The problem is, once you get to the end of it, you don't get to start over.
Yay!
You start out shitting on yourself and you end shitting on yourself.
All right. So, Matt, what do you?
Yeah. I
Okay.
want to give the 5-point tier system a try, but set a hard. The old one was a trial, and we said at the next meeting, we revise it of, you know, see how it goes and revise. I want to set a hard date, like set a point in time where this is where we're going to talk about it. Like
About the beginning of the year.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. January.
Okay.
So January 1st, essentially after the new year.
Yeah.
Preferably not the first, because, well, I don't know about y'all. I probably won't be sober enough to have a cogent argument.
So maybe like January 3rd, just so that we can get over our hangovers.
That sounds like a good starting point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I've got like 8 gallons of homemade wine that I plan on putting to good use come the first of the year.
Yeah.
God bless your
I traded
skill.
a gallon of wine for a quart of whiskey.
Yeah.
Well, sadly, I can't trade it, but if you want to come to Tennessee, I'll gladly give you a gallon.
God save your liver.
Next time I come through Tennessee, I'll bring you some whiskey.
My liver's already burning in hell.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we have the new tier system, I saw some talk in the chat for the experience. Do we still want to keep the experience 1 for the most part and then add variables based on the adventure itself, or do we want to keep it based on the old range or average between the tiers?
I would say keep it at a 1 base, and then by the adventure to the players, allow it to have maybe an extra XP if it's a deadly style game, or that CR APL CR group as far as that. And if it's not, then it's just 1 or something akin to that.
So give like the adventures like a challenge rating.
Yeah.
So like 1 would be just, you know, base adventure, like you've come here for fun. Then 2 might be like deadly, like expect to have a hard time. Then 3 might be like lethal, prepare to die, get your resurrection spells ready.
I don't think we should do 3. I think we just do.
Okay.
But yeah, something in those.
And I definitely don't want to restrict resurrection, but a thought I've been having in my head is we should have maybe talk about having a single character can have a total number of resurrections in their lifetime,
or level cap.
That one, I'd say, let's chew on it.
Yeah, it was just like I said, it was a thought that was rolling around my head, and I just wanted to vocalize it. It was not something I wanted to manifest at this point in time. It was just something I wanted to throw out there.
Because are you talking just resurrection, or true resurrection, or just
coming back to life
dead
in general, like the act of not being dead anymore?
And see, and to
that would I don't mean that it has to like if your character dies like maybe like 20 times, maybe you just don't have the willpower to come back anymore. Like something like that.
Well,
like, not something that's like something like you have died so many times it's better off to stay in the afterlife kind of thing.
Well, if I remember the spells, if they're unwilling,
yeah,
you can't bring them back.
Yeah.
Uh,
But it's
the-
more of, it's not that they're not unwilling, it's that they're unable to.
the other aspect that you could look at is, I believe when I was playing first edition, you had con saves for coming back,
Yeah.
Yeah, the
and
system shock.
yeah, and you lost a con point for each time. I'd have to go back in my old
Yeah.
DMG to see it, but there was
Yeah.
something
Because
like that.
I'm
that
just feeling
we
there's
used.
no penalty for death, and I think there should be.
Yeah, there in 1E there was, if you use the basic raise dead or resurrection, there was, you lose a con for every time you raised. But there was also a chance that if you had a low con to begin with, and you failed your system shock test, is that the resurrection was so painful that you just died again anyways.
And if we wanted to, we could institute something like that. It's just that everybody on that point would have to agree exactly how each one of those necromancy
Yeah.
spells would work.
That's why I said it's something I want to throw out there and something to talk about the next meeting, or then, give time to actually come up with, this is an actual good idea that I want to throw out. This is what I said was just me spitballing, so
Yep.
I want to give it time to germinate into something.
All right. So I think that was all of the main discussion points that I wanted to talk about. So we've covered the trying out the new tier range. We've talked about upcoming events, the chaos magic and the remaining shards, and the war that's coming up, and what it will do to magic items. So is there anything else that anyone wants to bring up while we're all just kind of gathered around before I kind of just open up other discussions?
After the 7-year war is complete, it is something I am currently researching, working on at this point. I want to make a tax code.
That is actually very reasonable.
For a tax code for where?
For Illumina.
Oh, all right. Because that'd be a lot of work for tax code for every different style government and city that's in Areawood.
Bear tax.
I'm not saying it's a universal thing. Illumina.
No, I just that's why I was asking, because there's that's a lot of work just for Illumina to do it for all the cities.
Oh no, that would
be astronomically challenging.
Yeah, no. All MMO games have sort of like a way to cycle money out of the player, and I figure we definitely need some sort of thing, and a tax, an inventor's tax or things, an actual written tax code might help with that.
Yeah, it will. The war will,
because
there's going to be war tax.
Yeah.
There's going to be loss of property. I mean, houses, estates that need to be repaired. That costs money. There's a lot of things.
Kukio's house may very well be bombed.
But there's a lot of things in the economy that wars impact drastically, like food, farms,
We're
and
occupied.
well, even not occupied. Look at Russia during, what was World War II, where
Both of them,
they
1 and 2.
well, yeah, but two is the one I'm thinking of right now. Is that they did the scorch earth policy, which starved Hitler's forces from having those logistic problems eased that they were impacting themselves. So, but a cost of a loaf of bread, a turnip, went sky high during those times because of supply and demand.
All right.
I got one thing.
Like I said, that's just
Okay.
what I'm working on. And it's definitely not going to be ready anytime soon, especially since I just started.
All right, so real quick, so here it goes. What about awarding a percentage of an XP for roleplay as an incentive? Not a whole XP, but kind of like maybe a quarter or something like that, as an incentive for people to roleplay more. Because the reason I say that is there's a lot of murder hobos, okay, but you get more of the roleplay aspect of the games. Then you open it up for people wanting to play games for the roleplay value instead of just, hey, let's go and murder a bunch of freaking gnolls or some shit like that. You know what I mean? It might open up more options for mini campaigns or 2 or 3 session games that focus more on the role playing aspect instead of just, hey, we have an issue, we got a bounty hunter contract, and we just run out there and just kill a bunch of freaking were-yetis or some shit. I don't know. Or were-yats.
I'm personally not averse to it, but that's
it's not like the MVP thing you're talking about, but just
yeah. But the thing I was going to say along with that, that's why we have inspiration also, and one of the reasons we allow folks to stack inspiration up to up to a top amount of 5. But that's another way to encourage role play, like you're saying, or I'd say if they went above and beyond and did a great job role playing during a session, more active than some of the others there, using the baseline of what you would expect, we'll say, from a 9th level character. And if they just did what a 9th level character would do, they wouldn't get it. But if they went above and really shine, then yeah, not a bad idea.
There's something I brought up in the chat that if you could turn in maybe if you could turn in 5 XP. I mean 5 inspiration to earn 1 XP.
I don't know. I'm not crazy on that.
Well,
myself.
so the only reason I brought that up was because we were recently in a game where, and I don't remember which one it was, but we were burning through inspiration like crazy. And I just realized that almost everybody in that game had 3 or 4 inspiration to burn, and we were basically just sitting on it, almost all of us. So that was where that idea came from.
Yeah.
For me.
Well, like I said, I'm not averse to it, and it's not a bad idea. It's just I'm thinking that some they're with everything trying to control level creep,
Yeah.
but if you awarded it at a quarter, then it's not necessarily a quick game change.
Right, but this would actually be less than a quarter. It would be 20% of an inspiration. You generally only get 1 per game.
And
well, actually, here in the UAG, you could, if you so warranted it, be awarded up to 5, but you can't hold any more than 5. And the reason we went with that was basically somewhat the intent you have was to encourage more activity, less murder hoboing, more RP in a sense, and that the inspiration wouldn't OP a game, even if you used all 5 during a game or a campaign session per se.
Or 14.
Say what?
Or all 14.
14. Who has 14? We only agreed that you could carry 5 max.
No, it was between everyone.
Yeah,
a
that
group
particular
effort
game
of
you're talking
14
about, I
is
went through
extended.
7 inspiration. No, not 7, but 5 inspiration.
Yeah.
Which one was that?
Yours.
Probably Chapo.
Yours.
Oh, okay.
Chapo's like,
That's
which
right,
game
it
was
was
that? I
Chapo's
don't
game.
remember.
I knew what it was. I just want to hear you say it.
You're the most meat grinder DM that we have.
What?
Oh.
I thought Alex was.
I just sell it well.
I try to give you guys a challenge. That's all.
So I did want to bring something. If we're gonna table that or keep discussing it.
No, well, let's toss it up to a vote right now, because trading 5 inspiration for 1 experience. Yay or nay?
Yay.
Yay.
I like the idea simply because it will force players to actually make a hard decision.
Yay.
Okay, so 5 inspirations for 1 experience.
Yeah. But also, if a player does that, then they'll be back at 0, and then they'll not have an inspiration for, they failed a saving throw of a deadly effect.
That's
They
the
don't have
trade-off.
inspiration to save themselves.
Well, that's
That's the risk.
the hard choice
Yeah.
that was mentioned.
I didn't hear the gavel.
I don't have a gavel. I could just go find a hammer and just bang it on my desk.
There you go.
But then you'll wreck your desk.
It's a piece of shit, anyways.
Got a log.
Right
Slog,
there.
slog, good for me. Oh, Ren and Stimpy.
Okay. So I'll change the roster and I'll relabel it. I already had the proficiency bonus on there anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So tiers are going. We're going 5 tiers.
Yeah.
They're made from the proficiency bonuses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if your proficiency bonus goes up, you moved up a tier.
Okay. All right.
So the thing I wanted to bring up was the new item creation thing.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew where we were at with that. That, you know, the idea behind that is just to add more adventure in the creation of items. And so what I've done with it so far, I like just coming up with the stuff.
Yeah.
So if no one hates what I'm,
we'll just ask you,
but you know,
what people need to create items.
Bear with it. Might take me a day or two to, you know, finally get around to pulling the books out. But what I've been trying to do, and you know, if anyone has something that, you know, that they want to do, I don't care. You know, if someone has an idea, spur of the moment. I want to make +1 studded leather armor. Oh, well, we just killed a bullet. Sure. Yeah, that can be how you make +1 studded leather armor. I'm sure there's more than one way to absolutely do it. But yeah, what I've generally done is I look in the proper CR. I find, you know, a couple different items in the right CR range, and then stuff that doesn't necessarily have to involve combat, that it could be traded for. It could be, you know, for instance, the book that Ty was just asking for. I mean, that's a big item. That's a big deal. So I kind of push into the range, and then just kind of went with that. So, you know, you will have to kill. There's at least one thing that has to die, but you know, the Tome of a Warlock, for instance, that I used in that, you have to keep. That has to be negotiated or whatever. You can't kill that warlock, because as soon as they die, the book turns to dust. You're screwed. So, you know, there's into that. But I just, now we're doing more adventures when we get magic items than just, hey, here's 50 grand, give me a weapon.
Cool.
I like the concept. We may want to add like a bulletin board post in the Discord where if somebody happens to be on an adventure and finds item X that somebody is needing, that they know that they can not just run and sell it, but might want to look towards a guild member first.
You mean a Monster Hunter Vault?
I've never played Monster Hunter, so I have no idea.
Oh, no, I'm just bashing words together at this point.
No, I'm just like, don't know what you're talking about.
Actually, not a bad idea.
Like,
Could have a building in Illumina that does that, like stores. materials. I mean,
Well,
it wouldn't be
that's-
fully stocked right now, but if we did adventures to stock it, we would start having
Well, that
Well,
was
you have-
that was
Well,
the city, and they were using those things to try and give the watch some advantage.
But you have the marketplace there, plus the armorers and uh, weaponsmith and such that deal with those things. As far as that, you do have the merchants guild in alumina and such that could assist in having those things known about a little better. Bulletin board places inside the merchant guild. You got your stores that possibly, or you could have a new business that set up there. You got the magic users shop where they get supplies in alumina that would have some of those.
Well, the idea behind it is for the lower CR stuff. Actually, the first one I did was for Chris for a Jack, and things like the tail off a bone druid, or a bone devil. There are bodies around that you could get. There are a couple dead bone devils around that you could harvest the tail off of. But things like cave fisher filament, that should be something that you should be able to go into the market and either get yourself or commission a tier 1, even a new tier 1 game, so that's encouraging more games. And the idea behind that was I wanted to help, rather than the DMs just have to come up with games out of their ass. Now there's a goal. These people are looking for cave fisher filament. They have to go in the Underdark to find that, and that's not something that's too strong for, it's not something so strong that, well, we have to have tier 2s go after that. No, that can be a tier 1 game.
sounds like.
I'm all for that being trialed as well. Like, I want to see where that goes and how it's handled by the players as well.
Yeah. Yay for me.
I'm good with it. Don't mind me. I'm
Brendan.
two different.
And I think as far as the trial goes,
one thing that could you also do is when you say this is what you need to create this item, could you record that in some sort of document or something? This isn't necessarily something you have to keep updating all the time. It's just something to make sure it stays consistent.
Right. And so another part of it is that it doesn't necessarily. So I'm thinking, there's more than one way there's probably more than one way to create a level, an uncommon magic item. There's probably, a bunch of ways to create a uncommon magic item. And then as you get to the higher rarities, it becomes more and more difficult, which is why we added the
but usually
multiple
items usually have that one common thing that all variations usually have one thing in common. That is, they always need one thing.
All right.
Hair from a dwarf's beard.
I think the easy solution to that is just take the hit dice of the monsters and put it to the range of the magic items.
Yeah.
But I think that would...
and especially since we're matching our tier with the proficiencies, it matches a lot of things a lot easier, like with the treasure table, with the magic crafting table as well. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Well, and where I got the tiers for the CR ranges for the reagents, the creatures to get those reagents was out of Xanathars. So
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think there's. So anything else anyone else wants to bring up first?
Nope.
So, the one of the things I wanted to bring up was the scaling of difficulty. But I think with saying what encounters are going to be deadly and which are just going to be standard adventures for missions will be a good way to tell people, like, you better be prepared if you want that extra experience point.
Mm.
So I think that's a good way to tell everyone be ready.
I like that.
But I'd also like to say that not every party is combat oriented. So if a adventure party, like a classic adventure party that shows up, don't be afraid to throw traps at them either.
Well,
But
that would be
that would be like
when stated deadly doesn't necessarily have to be combat.
I know.
Right. Traps, poisons, exhaustion.
legal system.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different avenues that could be taken to meet that. It just there again back to the DEM deciding what he wants his story to be, which takes time for him to think of. We'll say, okay, it's a tier 2. Now, if I put standard monsters for tier 2 rank, well, that's normal. If I put the tougher monsters, some that edge up, that are harder, up maybe towards tier 3, well, that's deadly. And the same with traps, because there's several trap manuscripts out there now that have them slotted easy, normal, deadly, or by a CR. So help you adjust them for your scenario.
Yeah. And the other one that I don't think we're really going to need to get into is the idea of potentially just creating moderators. But I think DMs pretty much fall into that position anyways. And Charles kind of already talked about it much earlier on in the video. So I don't think we really need to talk about that anymore. Oh, I got to sneeze.
Then do it.
Bless you.
God bless you.
Okay.
Now you're not gonna.
Oh, now I'm not going to get the plague and become a zombie. God damn it.
Darzan, take your soul.
Ah, thank God.
Yes, he is one.
So, with that, I think we can end the broadcast here. I think we talked about a lot and got a lot of stuff out of the way. So, unless anyone has anything else to add or closing statements.
Just
If the glove don't fit, you must quit.
nah. If you can't roll a natural 20 and you roll a critical miss, do it with style.
That's how we're gonna end it. Okay. See
Sorry,
you, everyone.
Yeah.